Taking a look at our procedure here, we are trying to find the water in our unknown hydrate. So we're basically going to need to work through the process like we did on our worksheet for hydrates, and we're going to need to cook out some of the water. We need to find out what it weighs wet, what it weighs dry, find our formula. So when we take a look at our procedure here, the first thing it asks us to do is to find a clean crucible. So this is a crucible right here. A crucible almost looks like a little teacup or something. It's porcelain, so it can take high heat quite nicely. So the first thing we need to do is find a clean crucible. It says measure the mass of the cool crucible. So we're going to go ahead and put the mass on there, and we're going to record that. Let's make sure that that's showing up okay for you guys. There we go. On previous labs, some people are missing and messing up the decimals, so make sure that you watch that closely, please. Let's see, the next thing we need to do is tare the balance, and we're going to add about 2 grams of hydrate to our balance. So we're going to go ahead and tare it, and we're going to add about 2 grams. So got our chemical here. All right, looks pretty good. So just so you guys can kind of take a look at it here, it's a real sort of white, small, finely ground crystal. It looks a lot like what table salt would. If you didn't know any different and this was in a salt shaker, you would think it was just table salt. So definitely just a white crystal, and when you touch it, it's very dry. It doesn't feel wet at all. So that is our crystal. Let's see what step 3 is. Step 3, heat for about 15 minutes. We need to basically drive the water out of our substance. So let's go ahead and move over to the fume hood now. So we're going to go ahead and start trying to drive some of the moisture out of our substance. So in order to dry this out, we're using our Bunsen burner, and you'll notice up on top I have the metal ring, and supported up on top of the metal ring is what we call a clay triangle. So this is a clay triangle, and this way, when we're heating up our crucible, the material can sit right in the crook of that clay triangle like this. Okay, and so we can just kind of cradle it there. We'll go ahead and get the Bunsen burner lit. Now we got to get the gas going. Maybe we got better results now. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing nice and hot. I won't make you guys sit through the full 15. But we're going to watch it for a little bit. And what you'll notice is you can see it looks like it's melting, but it's actually not melting. What that is the water. I wonder if I can get more light in here. It's the water that's being driven off. This particular compound has quite a bit of water, and so we're actually boiling that water off. So a little bit of heat, and this stuff really starts coming out. We want to be careful when we do this that we don't let it splatter. We definitely want to just drive the water off and try and keep the splatter to a minimum and just leave our crystals behind. Once the majority of the water is out, we can go ahead and just continuously blast the thing with heat and not really have to worry about it in terms of splattering out of there once the majority is out. So at this point, we should be starting to see it is actually almost looking like styrofoam. So the vast majority of the water has been removed, and there's still probably one or two stuck in the crystal lattice. And so that's why we're going to let it continue heating for quite some time and see if we can't make sure that all of it is gone. So I'm going to let this heat just like this. At this point, there's not much to see, and we'll come back in a few minutes. All right, it's been about 15 minutes at this point. Our substance is very, very dry. Now, we know that there are some different types of hydrates out there. And so at this point, we can see that there is, it's basically glowing red. This thing is very, very hot. There's no way that I can put this on my digital scale. I have to let it cool. However, with the different types of hydrates that we have available to us, there's a good chance that while it's cooling, moisture from the air is just going to go right back in. And I'm going to be right where I started from at the beginning. And I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is when I shut the heat off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let my sample dry, or cool, pardon me. I'm going to let it cool in a desiccator. And so I showed you guys what a desiccator looks like the other day. The desiccator is this basic glass jar, and we know that the desiccator has a hygroscopic material in it already. We know that it's perfectly dry in there because of this blue paper. If the paper turns a pinkish or tan color, we know that there's moisture that's gotten in there, and all of these are full. But right now we know that they're still hungry, they're still pulling moisture out of the air. This has no moisture in it, but I need to let it cool in a place where there is no moisture. So any air, any water vapor in the air has been pulled into those crystals, and it's nice and dry in here. So we're gonna go ahead and slide the top off. And so basically it's a really tight fitting glass lid, and I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. And we see that there's some little holes in that porcelain plate that will allow it to sit there. And I'm going to put the lid back on. And there's a little bit of a vacuum grease that's on there to give us a nice tight seal. Okay. And so we have a nice dry place. We're going to let this sit for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and get our final weighings. All right, it's time for us to finish this up. It should be pretty cool at this point. I've let it sit for, I want to say like 12 to 15 minutes. It's been a while. So I should be able to pull the lid off here. We'll go ahead and grab our sample out. Yep, nice and cool. And we'll come on over and we will take our final weighing. So let's go ahead and put that thing on there. So, oh, are we zeroing? Yeah, we're 0. Okay, so looks like kind of fluctuating back and forth between those two. I'd say the 8.6 probably. Okay, so we're about finished. One interesting thing, this stuff, remember what it looked like in the very beginning. It was, the crystals look like table salt, but once the water's out of it, it's almost like styrofoam. right? It's soft, and you can kind of crunch it up like you would styrofoam. Kind of a neat stuff. Anyway, there it is. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.